I am here today with Matt from Lawmatics. They are the latest winner in the Best Places to Work awards. They are a CRM for lawyers. What better thing, right? Who needs to be organized and follow their leads? But Matt, welcome to the winner's circle and congratulations on the award.
Yeah, thanks Russ for having us. We're very honored on the award.
Yeah. So if somebody doesn't know Lawmatics, what do you guys do? It's CRM for lawyers. I know that's kind of a broad statement, but kind of what are you guys focused on?
Yeah, I think of it more as like a growth platform for law firms. CRM, I would say, is just one kind of pillar of what we do. But then we'll help lawyers with lead management, with marketing automation, with reporting and analytics, and kind of everything in between. So really, just managing the kind of the front end of the customer journey, and then the very back end, when that lawyer, that lead or that customer that you had, that client, needs to maybe become a referral source or result in more business. So we bookend the relationship there and handle everything in the beginning and everything at the end.
Now you come at this from a kind of a very good perspective. You practiced criminal defense law for a number of years before you kind of pivoted into legal tech, and this isn't your first go around at legal tech either. What's the
No.
moment you kind of made you realize that this industry needed some help?
Yeah, well, I mean, way back in the day, like you kind of hit the nail on the head. I was practicing as a criminal defense lawyer. I started my own law firm. And actually, like shortly after I started my firm, I got a complaint from a client, like a bar complaint, basically. It was like super scary, but I unpacked what the issue was, and it was really just like effectively it was I didn't call him back quick enough. That's what it was. And then I did some research, found out that that's like the number one complaint at every state bar. And so, long story short, I ended up having that issue with a client, and it led to me starting a software company called MyCase, which was my first company. Um, and that sort of started as a client portal, and it turned into a full practice management system. And I exited that business, and then a couple years later, came back into the space with Lawmatics, and then Lawmatics was sort of a gap that we identified in the market while I was building my case. So, but it all kind of started from that one client complaint, and just realizing that there was a problem in the industry.
Yeah. So you already had the successful exit with my case. What drove you to start again with Lawmatics? What did you want to do differently?
Um, I guess I'm a glutton for punishment. Um, I'm like I might be the only entrepreneur in legal tech that has come back for more. Um, I get a lot of flack from all of my colleagues in legal tech about that. Like, you're the only one who's come back and done it twice. Um, so I don't know. I think I jumped into a couple other things after I exited my case, and I think I realized that one, I realized I wanted to be building something myself again. I was operating as the CEO of another company, and um, I wasn't as passionate about it. I wanted to build my own thing again. And I just knew that I realized going out of legal tech that, like, I know the space really, really well, and I'm still very passionate about it. And I knew that there was still this gap in this type of a tool. And it was just such a big opportunity. And it was just one that I felt we needed to go after.
Yeah, now you've just earned kind of the best places to work recognition for the second time. I think you won 2 years ago as well. At 55 people, culture is something that you can actually feel when it's that small. I've been in companies that small, and it's a lot of fun. What are you doing deliberately to protect it as you scale up?
Yeah. And I think we've already scaled a bit. I think, like, all in with all of our team, we're like about 70 now. And um, I mean, for me, it's like if you have the right culture, um, and I say right culture, but like the right culture for your team, right? Like, and there's not like one culture, but it's just like whatever is the right culture for you. And if you have that is set, I think that it like it allows you to scale kind of naturally. Um, for us, we're being very careful about headcount, like I think everyone else is as well. You probably don't need to add as many heads as you needed to add 5, 10 years ago. All right. People can do a lot more right now with less. And we're definitely seeing that in how we scale our headcount. And so, um, but really, to me, the right culture just kind of like all the rest will take care of itself. And so we are really, really careful about the hiring process. And for us, being an in office company, we're in office Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and that's a huge part of our culture. Is being here in person, and that weeds out a lot of the wrong people just right off the bat. Right. So, like, as we scale, we kind of have that natural built in. Now it's a little bit of a polarizing thing, right? You still have so many companies that are remote. And so we're going to be hiring someone who knows that they're going to be in the office. And that's a particular type of person, I think. And so I think it just happens naturally given our culture.
Yeah,
Right.
it's got to be an interesting time now because with the evolution of AI, impacting kind of how we're evaluating people, in the process. I imagine most HR teams or founders or whatever are using AI to kind of evaluate resumes, evaluate candidates. It's very interesting now that that plus this move back to the office, how those kind of two mesh together. And I think you're right. I think there are certain companies that need to have that kind of in person connection. I think people need that in general, right?
So I'm a big believer of in person in general. And I think it, 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 I, the example I like to give or the scenario I like to give is, um, it's like the water cooler conversations. It's like, Slack is great, but when I have a customer success person that's on the phone out there and they're hearing a complaint from a customer. And as soon as they get off that call, the engineers that are sitting or the product team that are sitting right near them can be like, hey, that sounded like a crazy call. What was going on? And the person can be like, oh, they were complaining about this. Now that engineer, that product person is like, oh, wow, we need to fix that. And if they were remote, it's not like that person who gets off the call from customer success is going to go on Slack and be like, oh man, I just had a crazy customer call. Does anyone want to hear about it? Right. These things, or like you're walking in the hallway and you randomly see someone and you're like, you make a mention of something and they give you, they say something else and now you have an idea. Right. Those things they don't happen on Slack. They don't happen remote, you know? Um,
No, I remember reading that back when we read magazines. You and I are old enough to remember magazines.
yeah.
It was Wired, and Wired had an interesting article on brainstorming and where ideas come from. And one of the conclusions was it basically comes from mistakes in conversations, right? You say something, I interpret it some different way that you didn't mean, and and an idea generates because it sparks an idea. And it's that failure that creates great ideas sometime, and you don't get those especially as often if you're not conversing with real live people.
Yeah, they're just natural, random conversations that happen, and it just does not happen on Slack. And we've done right. We had to do it. We did it during COVID. We were all remote, and granted, our team was much smaller, but there was definitely something missing during the COVID era, and that's why as soon as we were out of COVID, I immediately was need to move back into the office, and really, it's a personal thing for me too. Like, I I started building companies because I just wanted like a fun group of people to hang out with every day.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that drove me to build a company. Like when I had my law firm, a law firm is sure you can scale it and you can grow it to a big team, but it's a different vibe. It's a different type of people. And my law firm was just me and one other person when I started. And then as I transitioned to MyCase, obviously that's going to scale much quicker. And you're going to need to build a team, and it's a different type of team. And it just became something that I loved. I loved having fun people to go hang out with every day, you know? And that's how I view Lawmatics still, and the people that we hire and how we build the team is like, I just want people who want to be around, who are going to be fun to, smart people who are interesting and fun to have a conversation over lunch with, or, when you're getting coffee. Like those are the things that I think are important. And if you hire just smart people who are like that, you can kind of have them do whatever. Like they don't need to be pigeonholed almost into a specific position. Like they can do lots of different things. And that's kind of has been our approach.
Yeah, I think that was the kind of the formation of that Good to Great book of it's the right people on the bus, right? It doesn't matter where they're sitting. You got the right people and you can put them anywhere and put them in customer service, put them in development, whatever, wherever you need to. Now you've attacked this market. That's it's kind of funny. My father was an attorney. We've got other attorneys as friends and other relatives, and they're kind of famously resistant to adopting new technology. So, how do you get attorneys who are kind of see themselves as practitioners, not business operators, to kind of embrace this, this tech automation platform?
Yeah. So it's a good question. And something that we, yeah, so again, I mentioned we identified this as an opportunity in the market back at MyCase, and this was back in like 2013, 2014. And and so like, well, why didn't we just build this into MyCase, right? The market wasn't ready, kind of for that reason, right? They're slow to adopt technology and they need to really see the value. So if you fast forward to like 2017, 2018, what you started to see in that period from like 2014 to 2017, 2018 was just a massive shift. Legal had gone like marketing, right? They had started to understand we got to market on Google. We got to, we actually have to spend money on marketing in order to get clients now. It's not just all going to come from referrals and things like that, right? And so with that shift to more spending money on marketing and thinking about it as a business, now all of a sudden they need the tools to support that, right? And so the problem needed to exist before we could provide the solution, even though the problem was there before, but it needed to be front and center in their mind. And as soon as lawyers start spending money on things, they want to make sure it's working, and they want to know what's happening. And as the market became much more competitive, and it really became much more competitive, especially consumer driven law firms like personal injury, estate planning, family law, bankruptcy, right, immigration. These things became highly competitive from like 2017 up until now. Um, and in that environment, in order to survive, the law firms have to rethink, right? They have to adjust and become more focused on the business and less on not less on the practice of law, but in addition to the practice of law, they need to focus on the business. And so they did
Well,
that. And so providing the tools was just a natural
Well,
course.
and you're right because it's gotten at least I'm in the Philadelphia market and it has gotten obnoxiously competitive. Especially between the very big guys here, the multi-state guys that are everywhere. Um, they're consuming so much of airwaves and brand space in market that it's really it's quite amazing that the little guys can even keep up.
Hmm. Yeah, and I, you know, a lot of them can't. Um, lucky for lawyers, like, and I think we tend to think when we think lawyers and we think marketing, we think advertising, we think personal injury, right? Because that's what you see. Like you see the billboards, it's what you see the ads for. But there's so much more, obviously. Um, the good thing for those guys, even the little guys, like those cases can be pretty large, right? So they can still survive. But a lot of them are not. And there's a whole new thing in legal where they're called MSOs and ABSs, where now like non-lawyers can have law firms. And that has created the wild, wild west, right? You've got like investments, you've got like Floyd Money Mayweather has a law firm now, right? And they create these law firms like in Arizona, and then they can be just basically marketing engines where they just drive leads as a law firm and then send it out to a real law firm to handle. So everything has changed, and like with all of this focus now on getting business, right? Well, you need a tool like Lawmatics. You have to have something to manage your leads, to automate the process of responding to them and converting them ultimately.
Yeah, it's still a very, very personal business, especially when you get into, talking about the case. It gets very personal very quick. And you guys launched a major kind of UI overhaul last year and added a bunch of kind of AI assisted features. I always wonder, how did you decide to kind of build what you built and kind of launch what you built? And what does that kind of development process look like inside of Lawmatics?
So we are, completely customer driven. Um, and I think, for us, it's like there are two pieces that make this thing work. Obviously, our customers, they're number one. We need them, and then we need our team. Like, we're like our place of work. Like, it doesn't work without both of those things. And so our customers and our people internally are like they sit right on the same plane. But we we only kind of do things that are driven from our customer base. We've got a lot of law firms, and they're very vocal. They're going to tell us what problems they have, and then it's the job of our team to figure out a solution to those problems. And so our development cycle really just it is listening to our customers, and it's not really listening for features. It's listening for problems, and then figuring out a solution to that problem. Um,
What do you remember one that was kind of the most ambitious you did last year that kind of worked?
Last year, yeah, I mean, so we've really made a very big push into the personal injury space. It's been a focus of ours, and that requires a whole lot of changes to the platform, a whole lot of additional features to the platform. And so I mean, we had a lot of pretty massive projects that we did in the last year. Um, I think one of the, yeah, I mean, it'd be hard to pinpoint one exactly. I mean, all the AI stuff that we're now launching is probably the biggest initiative. Obviously, I think every company probably feels the same way. Um, but we are a platform. We are a platform first, and we think that there's a lot of these little one-off AI companies that come out and they do one specific thing, and then they pop up out of nowhere, and then they're gone a month later. And so we feel pretty strongly that as a platform, if we can successfully add AI onto the platform, that's a winning formula. Because we have everything else, and we don't neglect the platform still. So we're still focusing on traditional features, things that the platform actually needs, while we're also building out this AI suite. And so, like, it's probably the biggest thing for us is like the shift in focus to the AI suite and what we're building there. And it's pretty ambitious, and it's going to be rolling out. It's just kind of went into beta, and we'll be rolling out over the next month or so, and that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and that is one area that's going to be very interesting to look at with AI as that evolves. It's going to be very impactful for the law community. You mentioned kind of going into the personal injury. What does growth look like beyond that? Are you pushing into new firm sizes, new geographies, other new practice areas?
I mean, we've been in almost all practice areas since the beginning, consumer practice areas. So I think if you're hiring, if you as an individual need to hire a lawyer, right? That's what we serve, which is 98% of the market, right? The corporate stuff, if you're a business that needs to hire a lawyer, that law firm is probably not one that we focus on. Um, Personal injury was one area that we actually didn't really focus on for the first 7, 8 years of the business. In the last year, we have really shifted focus into personal injury. So that's like an area where we're growing really, really significantly right now. And it's obviously an area where they spend the most on, it's the most competitive. They spend the most on leads. They spend the most on marketing. Um, yeah.
Well, it's interesting coming out of digital marketing world. Um, I think that the when we used to give examples of how kind of Google Ads worked, it was always it's always for lawyers, right? And it's usually cancer lawyers is what we would go after because they were very methodical in their approach of, you're going to spend $50 to get a client, you're going to have 100 clients. So that's, 5 grand, that, they had it all mapped out. They were one of the first ones. So it doesn't surprise me that these guys are out there really kind of pushing the envelope. As you're in this very niche B2B kind of SaaS market. Um, if there are other kind of founders out there who are getting into this space now, who want to build kind of category defining product like you have, what advice would you give them?
And that's a good one. I would say try to focus on one very small problem. And just be really, really good at that. And I would say to not focus on, I think AI needs to be a part of the solution, but it can't be the only solution. I think there needs to be some sort of depth around what you would build, what you offer, more of like a platform, right? And so, a platform for one specific problem can sometimes be a little challenging, but you can do that. And I think that would be my advice would be to not just focus on like an AI trick, but focus more on like a real solution that has a foundation beyond just AI. Because if it's just AI, it's going to be replaced it can be replaced. Someone else can build it in a couple days, you know?
in minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
And on the other side, if you're a small business owner of a law firm kind of coming up now and getting into this kind of into these personal spaces, what advice would you give to them?
To them, I would say be ready to spend money. Um, Come in with an actual business plan. It's, you no longer as a lawyer can just show up and be like, I have got my license, I can practice law, and so I'm just going to get, I'm going to get clients. That doesn't happen anymore. Um, you got to come in with a budget. You're going to need to spend money on marketing. I remember when I started my law firm, it was one of the things that helped me was, and this was back in 2009 when I started my law firm a long time ago. And I borrowed money, like 25 or 50 grand. Cause I'm like, I immediately need this. I'm doing criminal defense. I have to advertise on Google. I have to do like pay per click and things like that. And no one was really doing that back then, but I was like, I'm starting my law firm with money for marketing, nothing else. And that turned out to be a really, really valuable, um, initiative for me. And so I think now it's like it's table stakes. You have to be ready to do that. You have to come in with a business plan. You'll handle the cases just fine. You'll be able to practice the law, but you need to be able to practice the business.
Yeah. Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining us. Really, and congratulations on all the great culture building and business building in the law community. It's great to watch you have all this trajectory up and to see you guys succeed. So, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Russ, and we appreciate the award, the nod, and again, like having the place to work is kind of everything for us, and it's what we care about the most, I think. So pretty excited.
Congratulations again.
Thank you.